Before we get into today's edition of Just the Truth, let me tell you about the latest special from Mike Lindell at MyPillow. The standard MyPillow, normally $49.98 for a limited time only, just $14.88 with promo code Joey. Go to MyPillow.com, click on the radio listener specials, and see all the specials. There's a limited quantity of just 10 at this special price. That's $14.88 with promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. President-elect Donald Trump has confirmed plans to declare the situation at the U.S. Mexico border as a national emergency and to use military assets as part of a strategy to implement what he calls the largest deportation force in world history. Meanwhile, a mayor of a major Northeast city says that her city will not cooperate with the Trump administration's mass deportation program. We have those details for you. An unexpected meeting between Morning Joe co-host Joe Scarborough, Mika Brzezinski, and President-elect Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago over the weekend has triggered a backlash among MSNBC staff and liberal viewers. And South Carolina Representative John McCravey joins us to give us an overview of what to be expected in next year's legislative session in the South Carolina General Assembly.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but you know they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
President-elect Donald Trump grabbed headlines yesterday, particularly on social media, when he confirmed his plans to declare the situation at the southern border a national emergency and saying that he would, in fact, use military assets as part of a strategy to implement what he is calling the largest deportation force in world history. The announcement came via a Truth Social post, which is one of his favorite ways to launch big headlines like this. And it came about after Judicial Watch's Tom Fitton posted on Truth Social that there was speculation that Trump would, in fact, use the military. And Trump's Truth Social account, we assume with his blessing, just simply replied to Judicial Watch's post saying, yes, that's true, confirming that he was planning to use military assets. Trump's declaration of a national emergency aims to address what he and his supporters have called a border invasion. We all know that our country is being invaded. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris has allowed millions and millions, nobody knows how many millions, to come into our country. And so by invoking the national security concerns, President Trump intends to justify the use of military resources to bolster immigration enforcement. Now, you and I have talked about this quite a bit, and we've all asked the question, okay, he won. Immigration was one of the top two issues that got him elected to another term in the White House, and he has said all along that he plans to deport them. Now we have to decide, okay, how do we do that? It's a major operation, particularly when you recognize that there could be 20 million people. Where do you start? And it just makes sense to use our military forces. Now, the Democrats, the folks who oppose this, are saying, no, you can't do that. Critics and a lot of Democratic lawmakers are saying that this can't be done, that military personnel for domestic enforcement actions can't be done. There's a federal law that limits the military's role in domestic law enforcement. Trump, though, and his team argue that border security is a matter of national defense, which they say allows for the deployment of military assets under emergency powers. I think it's a good use. You agree? Do you agree that it's okay and that it's needed for Trump to use our military forces to round up the illegals, the criminals who came here not with good intentions, and to take them back to their home countries? Do you think that's a good use of our military? Trump has named Tom Homan, of course, the former acting director of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. He's designated him his border czar, and Holman embraces the title, unlike Kamala Harris, who never really admitted to being the border czar. Holman is a well-known immigration hardliner, if you will, who has previously advocated for aggressive enforcement policies and says, basically, hey, I'm going to do this. I've been tasked with rounding these folks up who are here illegally and sending them back from whence they came. He's gotten pushback, of course, from mayors and other elected officials around the country, saying that they will not cooperate in a mass deportation operation. He said last week, if you're not going to help, just get out of my way. Throughout his campaign, Trump has pledged to tackle this problem, again, calling it an invasion for what it is. It is an invasion. It was one of his top two issues in the campaign, just like in 2016 when he started building the wall, and then Joe Biden on day one signed executive orders to reverse everything Trump had done to secure our border. Now, it's not going to be that easy because we know they're going to put up a fight. An example of that is Boston's Democrat Mayor Michelle Wu. In an interview with WCVB, Mayor Wu expressed her commitment to protecting Boston's residents, particularly undocumented immigrants who contribute to the community and local economy. Wu emphasized the importance of city services being accessible to all residents regardless of immigration status and voiced concerns over the widespread fear that federal deportation efforts might create. Now, how can an elected official, how can someone like the mayor of a major city justify her stance against the federal government? She said, we're not cooperating with those efforts that actually threaten the safety of everyone by causing widespread fear and having large-scale economic impact. She argued that fear of immigration enforcement could drive immigrants into the shadows, preventing them from accessing essential city services like emergency assistance and schooling for their children. Well, that's kind of part of the problem, Mayor, is they are draining our resources. They are draining the resources of your school district. That's kind of the idea, is we send them back to their home country so that they're not using those resources. They don't have a right to those resources. Now, of course, Boston, like many of the other blue cities, they operate under sanctuary city policies, which limits local cooperation with federal immigration authorities, particularly regarding ICE detainer requests. Under these policies, local law enforcement is typically barred from holding individuals for ICE without a warrant, even if those individuals have criminal charges. Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey has also pledged that state police will not assist in the planned deportation operations, stating that the state is prepared to use every tool in the toolbox to protect its residents. They're not residents. If they're here illegally, they are not Massachusetts citizens. They're not citizens in our country at all. Mayor Wu's stance comes amid criticism, of course, that sanctuary policies can lead to dangerous individuals being released back into the community. And we've seen that happen with some of the major crimes in some of the larger cities. Recently, ICE highlighted several cases in the Boston area where undocumented immigrants charged with serious crimes, including child sex offenses, were released after local authorities ignored ICE detainer requests. In one instance, a Colombian national arrested on charges related to child exploitation was released despite an active detainer from ICE. I mean, this person was wanted for child exploitation, and they turned him loose because they disagree with cooperating with the federal authorities. They'd rather have a criminal out on the street than to turn their back on their sanctuary city status. These incidents have intensified the debate over whether or not sanctuary city policy should even be allowed. Proponents argue that they're essential for building trust between immigrant communities and local law enforcement. Critics claim that they undermine public safety by allowing potentially dangerous individuals to remain on the streets, which they do. Again, I never understand how any elected officials who has sworn to uphold the law of the land, how they can justify not cooperating with law enforcement officials when they have a criminal, a known criminal, in their custody, but yet they turn them loose because they don't agree with the immigration status. The incoming Trump administration is already planning for this massive expansion of immigration detention facilities. They reportedly are holding discussions with private prison companies to secure additional capacity because they're going to have to be, once these folks are detained, they're going to have to put them somewhere. They're going to have to hold them. This is going to be a huge operation, folks. But Trump's made it clear that his priority is to remove undocumented immigrants with criminal records first, framing it as a measure to enhance public safety and restore order at the border. And it makes sense. We have to do it. We can't just allow these people to run loose in our country if we know they're criminals. Your comments are welcome on the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. This year, I really thought I was going to have to boycott the holidays. I was going to lock myself away and not come out until 2025. But after finding PhD weight loss, you can bet I'll be at every holiday party I'm invited to. That's because PhD weight loss helped me take control with great confidence, support, and my new healthy body. The best part, PhD weight loss did it all without harmful drugs that keep you dependent on them to maintain your weight loss. It's a natural, medication-free approach to weight loss crafted to naturally diminish food-related thoughts, hunger, and cravings, making your weight loss journey more sustainable and enjoyable. Take it from me, I lost 33 pounds. The PhD weight loss program teaches you not just what to eat and when, but also how to think differently about food and finally let go of those cravings and get rid of the hunger naturally. Don't lock yourself away this holiday season. Call PhD Weight Loss today at 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900, or go to myphdweightloss.com. Continuing today's show, boy, it's not easy getting old, is it? Yesterday, I had 2 doctor's appointments. I feel like I'm my dad or my mom, because I remember as they got older, it was like everything sort of centered around their doctor's appointments. So I drove back over to Greenville yesterday from the lake for 2 doctor's appointments. Yesterday morning, I went to a podiatrist. First time I've ever been to a podiatrist. And I've had this little thing on the bottom of my foot that hurts. And of course, he gets this knife out and starts carving in my foot. And I'm tensing up, and he says, just relax. And I said to him, easy for you to say, you're sitting there with my foot in your hand with a knife, and you want me to relax. So I hobble out of his office and head over to my annual dermatologist appointment. And he does his scan, he looks me over and everything. And before I know it, he's got this thing, and he's spraying these little spots on my forehead and my scalp, and it hurt. He's freezing these little spots. And he says, "Now you're going to probably have some places on there that's going to burn for a while." So I'm hobbling around, holding my head all afternoon. Getting old. It's not for the faint-hearted, but hey, it beats the alternative, doesn't it? Boy, the Morning Joe co-host, Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski, they have triggered a backlash among the MSNBC staff and their liberal viewers because they feel like they've been betrayed. They feel like that Scarborough and Brzezinski betrayed them by going to Mar-a-Lago. They disclosed yesterday that they had a secret meeting with the enemy, with Donald Trump in Mar-a-Lago. Listen as Scarborough and Brzezinski announces to their viewers yesterday their visit with Donald Trump.
Over the past week, Joe and I have heard from so many people, from political leaders to regular citizens, deeply dismayed by several of President-elect Trump's cabinet selections and they are scared. Last Thursday, we expressed our own concerns on this broadcast and even said we would appreciate the opportunity to speak with the president-elect himself. On Friday, we were given the opportunity to do just that. Joe and I went to Mar-a-Lago to meet personally with President-elect Trump. It was the first time we have seen him in 7 years.
Now, we talked about a lot of issues, including abortion, mass deportation, threats of political retribution against political opponents, and media outlets. We talked about that a good bit. And it's going to come as no surprise to anybody who watches this show, has watched it over the past year or over the past decade, that we didn't see eye to eye on a lot of issues, and we told him so.
What we did agree on was to restart communications. My father often spoke with world leaders with whom he and the United States profoundly disagreed. That's a task shared by reporters and commentators alike. We had not spoken to President Trump since March of 2020, other than a personal call Joe made to Trump on the morning after the attempt on his life in Butler, Pennsylvania. In this meeting, President Trump was cheerful, he was upbeat, he seemed interested in finding common ground with Democrats on some of the most divisive issues. And for those asking why we would go speak to the president-elect during such fraught times, especially between us, I guess I would ask back, why wouldn't we? 5 years of political warfare has deeply divided Washington and the country. We have been as clear as we know how in expressing our deep concerns about President Trump's actions and words in the coarsening of public debate. But for nearly 80 million Americans, election denialism, public trials, and January 6th were not as important as the issues that moved them to send Donald Trump back to the White House with their vote. Joe and I realize it's time to do something different. And that starts with not only talking about Donald Trump, but also talking with him.
And with that, it just pushed some of their staff, reportedly, and viewers over the ledge. One unnamed MSNBC employee labeled the decision as cowardice, accusing the host of obeying in advance and aligning themselves with Trump despite their previously antagonistic stance. The staffer added that the move seemed opportunistic, highlighting a growing rift between the network's morning stars and supposedly the broader MSNBC team. Contributors like Jennifer Rubin and Katie Fang voiced their disapproval on social media, with Rubin calling it a disgusting, or calling it disgusting, and Fang criticizing it as a form of normalization that could undermine the network's critical approach towards Trump. I say that it is. I think they're right. It is opportunist. These folks realized that their ratings have tumbled, and they're trying to figure out what to do to get back in the game. And Donald Trump is their ticket. Donald Trump is their meal ticket of doing that. I think finally they're smart enough to realize, and as Mika suggested there, almost 80 million people voted to send Donald Trump back, regardless of all of the issues that she and Joe have tried to bash him with over the years, and none of it stuck. People didn't care about it. I think they've recognized that. I think they have awakened and realized if they're going to get back in the game, if they're going to be taken seriously, then they got to be more fair and balanced if they're capable of that. This meeting, I mean, it really did ignite outrage. The reaction underscores the really deep polarization within the Democrat Party, within the leftist movement, and within the mainstream media when it comes to Trump. An insider noted that the backlash feels serious and speculated that while parent company Comcast might not mind the increased attention, many at MSNBC are uncomfortable with the decision. What are they going to do? Quit? If they feel that strongly, maybe they should quit. Go find a network and good luck with it. Go find a network that wants to continue to bash Donald Trump, like MSNBC has, and particularly Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski over these past few years. Scarborough seemed to anticipate the backlash and addressed it directly yesterday. He said, "We're not here to defend or normalize Donald Trump." He emphasized that the purpose of the meeting was to report on Trump and provide viewers with insights, not to shift the tone of their coverage. They wanted to be relevant again, is what they wanted. But I think it's going to take more than just a meeting with Donald Trump to do that. Your comments are welcome on the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Firmin Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Firmin Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you could trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Firmin Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Firmin, Matthew Firmin. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Firmin Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Firmin Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Firmin Ford online at firminford.com, firminford.com. Joining me today from Greenwood, Representative John McCravey. Welcome. How are you?
Joey, I'm doing great, and it's good to talk to you.
Good to have you back. Wow, you did pretty well in the election. Congratulations.
Well, thank you, Joey. I appreciate it. I have to give all the glory to the Lord and my constituents. They're great people, and they still have confidence in me like I have in them.
Yep. Well, good things coming out of Greenwood, of course. Representative Daniel Gibson reelected, Senator Billy Garrett. Y'all just made a clean sweep down there. So the people of Greenwood and McCormick, and I think Senator Garrett takes part of Lexington County, right?
That's correct, and Saluda.
And Saluda, okay. So the people of those counties are well served there for sure. A lot of exciting things happening today. Of course, we're watching as President Trump builds his new cabinet for what I'm calling Trump 2.0, and some exciting things out of there. Let's talk for a minute about next year's legislative session. You guys will go back down in January, of course, in early December. The new members, you'll all come together to elect leaders and set priorities. Talk with us a bit about what you see as some of those legislative priorities coming up next session.
Well, as you said, President Trump coming along has changed everything. We're now thinking about all the great possibilities we have for our country, and hopefully the bad things won't be filtering down to South Carolina from the federal government anymore. But yet, nevertheless, we do have a lot to do in Columbia, and I'm excited for Columbia. We added new senators, Joey. We kept all of our House seats, plus gained another one. So we're in good shape. Our South Carolina Republican caucus has met, and they have outlined several general things that we're going to be doing. One of them is tax cuts. We're going to continue that. One of them is business-friendly policies that we always are for in our General Assembly, and one specifically is going to be addressed to the cost of insurance for restaurants and bars. We've already got a new committee, a joint committee with the Senate working on that before we even get down there. Hopefully we'll be able to do something about that'll make a difference in the premiums.
Yeah.
We need to increase our energy capacity in South Carolina. That's one of our objectives because we're running out of power. We've got to figure out a way to get more power and more affordable power. One is having a nice sized gas plant that can really put out clean energy. And so we're working on that. We're continuing to target education as a priority. We've got to get rid of these DEI programs that have invaded every part of education. We're going to be working on that. Parental rights, school safety. I know that we're going to also be certainly for law and order, we've got some things, some increased penalties we need to have for this fentanyl and some of these deep fake images that they're coming up with now. Also, immigration enforcement. I think we're going to get the federal government to finally help us with that instead of hurting us with that.
Yeah.
And certainly even the Republican caucus said they're going to continue to defend and support pro-life, the Second Amendment. And there's going to be something, I think, for the storm. There's going to be some storm relief this year because, we hear about North Carolina a lot, but we've got a lot of problems here in South Carolina that still haven't been resolved. And local governments had to spend way more money than they're used to spending to clean up. Same with DOT. So we don't want to see our local communities get hurt by this if we've got a surplus and we're able to help out. So we're going to push that money down, I hope, to get it to local government where it needs to go. So that's your Republican caucus agenda.
On our guest line, Representative John McCravy, and that's a long list, but I got a feeling you're about to add some more to it.
Well, sir, we also, in the family caucus, we asked for legislation that will help the family and protect our children. So some of these dovetail with the Republican caucus agenda, but we might put certain bills at the top. So the family caucus certainly wants to see parental rights, just like the Republican caucus, in medical, in education. We're going to be putting bills there. We're going to also we're going to have something called the Dismantle DEI Act that takes DEI and puts it to death in our schools.
Yeah.
In our secondary schools, in our government, and in our higher education. We got to get rid of this stuff. Taxpayer money is being wasted on positions that do nothing but this DEI. So we've got to stop it. Unfortunately, some of our institutions have so much bureaucracy that they just can't stop it. So we're going to have to do it for them. So I think that's going to be a big thing that we're going to push for in the family caucus. But also we're going to emphasize the Human Life Protection Act again. This is the act that we wrote for South Carolina after Dobbs. This is the act that was stopped in the Senate by one vote once and two votes another time. We've got to pass this. The House of Representatives passed it 3 times. We've got to pass this and get it through so we can move on to other subjects, because this subject is not going to go away, Joey. People who care about life want to protect all life. We want to make sure that when a woman is known to be pregnant, that baby is protected. And we want to protect it. Not only the family caucus wants to see that protection start there, but we don't want it to end. We don't want them to be indoctrinated in the schools. We don't want them to be taught DEI when their parents aren't looking. We want our kids to be protected. We don't want them to be convinced they're the wrong sex. So this is a theme that runs through the family caucus, and we're going to emphasize those. And we're going to fight to get this bill up.
Yeah.
We're not going to – I haven't heard any opposition in the Republican caucus to this bill. The Republican platform, certainly, it's consistent with that. So I expect it to come up and come up fairly as a priority. If it doesn't, we'll be fighting to make sure it does.
Yeah.
So I wanted to mention that. So I'm also sponsoring a few bills. One of my main bill I'm sponsoring is the Human Life Protection Act, as you might imagine.
Yeah.
But I've got an idea on some other things. We still pay property tax after we finish paying off our property, after we retire, after you're 65. Guess what? You're going to still pay property tax all the way up until you die on the property that you own. The state thinks they own it, and they don't. So I think a good place to start is giving property tax relief for seniors. And I know we have a homestead exemption for $50,000. Nobody's house sells for $50,000 anymore.
Yeah.
That thing needs to be increased to $1 million at least. And that will give people who have worked hard all their life to buy something and pay it off, that'll give them finally freedom on that. And I would replace that. I think it ought to be a revenue neutral bill, so we could I've been told less than 1 cent on a sales tax would take care of all the property tax for seniors.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't you trade a half a penny for doing away with all senior property tax? I think the whole state ought to get behind that. So that's what I'm going to try to do. I know it's ambitious, but I tell you what, I think we need relief.
Yep, I would agree with you there.
That's right. And so, there's also a problem in our state when it comes to, and I'm switching subjects, obviously. There's a problem when it comes to covering our dependents to become pregnant. So now dependents are covered by health insurance to the age of 26. But when they get pregnant, guess what? The insurance company says, oh, well, you're not covered for this pregnancy because you're a dependent. We need to end that. I mean, if you're covered, you ought to be covered for everything.
Yeah.
So I think we can end it to a certain extent. There's certain laws we can't go behind that are federal, but every other policy ought to cover women who have maternal care when they're a dependent. I mean, I just don't understand this. And this hurts life. It hurts the family for that not to be covered.
Yeah.
That's another bill I'm going to sponsor. One that your readers, your listeners may be interested in. You know, we had, for the first time in our area, we experienced a hurricane that took out all the power.
Yep.
The biggest problem we had, Joey, and I don't know whether your listeners notice this, but we had fights in gas lines because there weren't enough gas stations that had a generator that could get the gas out of the ground. So people were waiting in line to the one or two that could.
Yeah.
And to me, you know, Florida, they take care of this. They have a law that says, look, if you're going to be a gas station along an evacuation route or a major highway, you need to wire your gas station. Just wire it. You don't have to have a generator, but wire it where a generator can get that gas out of the ground and run those essential services. And so in their state, they did this a long time ago because they've had so many hurricanes. It's time for us to think about doing something along this line. You know, when you got a big chain of gas stations, it's got more than 10 pumps and they've got, 50 different gas stations in our state, they can afford to just put a wire in to make sure a generator can run that gas station.
Sure.
So I think we need to do that, and that'll prevent, I think, some of the chaos we experienced. But you learn from these things.
Sure.
And that's one thing I think we can learn from. And a lot of responsible stations, a few did, have those generators going.
Well, that's a nice compromise there, not mandating that they have it, but that it's ready for it so they can rent one for those few occasions when they absolutely need it. We may, in our lifetime, may never have another storm like that, but certainly they'd be ready for it. If they had been wired, they could have rented generators and could have helped people, because you're right, that became a real problem with people not being able to get fuel, and they panicked. And so I certainly understand that. On our guest line, Representative John McCravy from Greenwood. This is a long list of things, so it sounds to me like you guys are going to have a busy session come January.
We're ambitious. There's no way we're going to pass everything I just talked about, or we'd be there for a couple of years. But
yep.
The legislative process doesn't move as fast as I can talk. But
yep.
But I'm really optimistic that we're going to hit on a lot of these things, that we're going to stop some of the bad things in our state, that we're going to promote some really good things. And that's the reason people are moving to our state so fast, they can't even rent U-Hauls quick enough.
Yep.
Because we have stayed conservative in South Carolina. We want to keep it that way, and we want to go forward and continue to make this state a great place to work and live.
Yep. Well, all good things, and we'll be right there with you all along the way, updates along the way as you are in session next year. It's an exciting time for sure. John McCravy, it's always a pleasure. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Joey, and we appreciate you.
Whether you're replacing a broken appliance or maybe you're just upgrading, you're totally remodeling the kitchen, when it's time to get those new appliances, when you're ready for them, you don't want to have to wait weeks or even months to get started using them, right? Well, that's not the case when you shop with my friends at Discounted Appliance Warehouse. With over 11,000 square feet and 1,500 appliances at any given time, you can buy today and use today quite often. I'm talking about shopping with my friends at Discounted Appliance Warehouse in Pickens. It's worth the short drive over to Pickens. Jeff, Johnny, Kyle, the whole team over there, they'll take good care of you. They have an award-winning service department, expert installation, extended warranties, and at Discounted Appliance Warehouse, they treat you like family. You're more than just a credit card swipe to all the team over there. Discounted Appliance Warehouse, they're proud to offer Speed Queen, the only washer and dryers with manufacturer's warranties that cover parts and labor. You owe it to yourself, if you're looking for a new appliance, to head over to Pickens to Discounted Appliance Warehouse online at dawpickens.com, dawpickens.com. South Carolina Representative Nancy Mace introduced a resolution yesterday seeking to prohibit transgender women from using female restrooms within the U.S. Capitol. Now, the reason this is significant is because, of course, Republicans are trying to enforce these type policies, aligning bathroom use with individuals' biological sex and not their chosen gender. In a statement, Representative Mace emphasized her aim to protect what she describes as the sanctity of protecting women, positioning the resolution as a part of a much larger effort against what she calls the left's systematic erasure of biological women. Representative Mace, who has been a very vocal advocate against allowing transgender women to compete in female sports, has consistently argued for policies based on biological distinctions rather than gender identity, which is what we all believe. We all believe that we should be recognized by what is put on our birth certificate, how we were brought into this, the sex that God made us when he brought us into this world. This resolution, according to its text, would prohibit House members, officers, and employees of the U.S. House from using single-sex restrooms that do not align with their biological sex. Enforcement of the rule would be the responsibility of the House Sergeant at Arms. Now, why is this particularly relevant now? It arrives just weeks before Representative-elect Sarah McBride, a Democrat from Delaware. Yeah, you wouldn't know that she would be from Delaware. A transgender woman. She is, or he is, and I get so confused over these, is set to be sworn into Congress. McBride, who will become the first openly transgender member of Congress, will could face direct implications if the resolution is passed, which everyone agrees it could probably create quite a contentious situation on the House floor. McBride's office has yet to comment publicly on the proposed resolution, but her election is, of course, considered a milestone by the LGBTQ community, being the first transgender person in Congress. And it's potentially setting the stage for a debate on inclusivity and gender identity at the highest levels of our government. Now, people within the House and the House administration point out that the reason that this could present some problems is because of the layout of the restrooms near the House floor. According to insiders, there are separate bathrooms designated for male and female lawmakers located just outside of the Speaker's lobby. However, the women's restroom is positioned on the Democrat side, while the men's restroom is on the Republican side. If Mace's resolution is enacted, it could create complications for transgender lawmakers or staffs, particularly during votes when quick restroom access is necessary. Now, that's the argument that some have made in the media as to why this could be a problem. Now, my immediate response is, well, if you're male and you gotta take a bathroom break and you got to go to the other side if you're a Republican, I mean, that's going to be true either way, whether you're transgender or not. So why is that an issue? Why are the Democrats expected to make that an issue, that it's going to impose a hardship on this transgender member of Congress to have to go to the other side to go to the restroom in a tight situation? Mace's resolution, of course, is part of a Republican strategy to focus on gender and transgender issues, which that's been another prominent part of GOP messaging. I think that was another part of the message, in addition to immigration and the economy, is people are over this far left issue of people deciding that, no, I don't want to be a little boy anymore, I'm going to be a girl, or vice versa. People are tired of that. And the whole argument over whether or not men should be allowed to go in women's restrooms or women's locker rooms, that shouldn't even be a debate. We shouldn't even be talking about that. And especially in reference to the restrooms outside of the U.S. House of Representatives. Wow. On the text line, Katrina writes, "Hey, Joey, Another exciting week for conservatives. It is like Christmas every day. I, like many, think that Joe and Dr. Jill voted red. Dr. Jill usually dresses in fabric that resembles an old floral couch pattern. Wearing red on Election Day was truly a power move. President Trump was the only one commenting that the presidency was stolen from Biden when the gang pushed him out. That alone should have garnered him their votes. But I do think they hate Harris with a purple passion. I'm very happy with the cabinet nominees so far. Even if Matt Gaetz doesn't get approved, just watching the meltdown is a win. On another note, I'm really enjoying your weekend interviews with Deb Sofield. Fascinating. Looking forward to next week. Well, thank you. Appreciate that, Katrina. And if you've missed my weekend show, Word on the Street, it's every Saturday at 12 noon on 98.9 WORD, and again Sunday morning at 7 a.m. Faye says, good morning, Joey. Listening to the trial of the monster who murdered Laken Riley really makes me hurt for her family. Once he was found with her DNA, he should have been dealt with. This young lady's family just did not need to be put through this ordeal twice. I hope Trump will ensure that illegals who murder our citizens won't be given a king's life any longer. Texter, Joey, it's Jennifer. I don't know how long we're going to hold on to it, but this high off of Trump's win is contagious, and people all over the place are uplifted and positive and energized. I'm loving it. We all are loving it for sure. And on the MyPillow message line, Mike from Atlanta.
Hey, Joey. It's Mike from Atlanta. Thanks for all you do. I just wanted to say that we won big, but now the work starts. I don't know if anybody else has said this before on the station, but the issue that has got me fired up, and I think every person can get behind, is Trump said no taxes on tips, no taxes on overtime, no taxes on Social Security withdrawals. This is a bipartisan issue. There is no good argument against it. You need to contact your elected officials. There are ways to find out who your elected officials are. We need to contact them and say, hey, make it happen, or I will work against you in the next election. I will find someone to primary you. This is an issue. I live in Raphael Warnock and John Ossoff's district in Georgia, and I live in a Democrat-controlled district also. But I am contacting them. I will contact them once a week until they ask me to stop contacting them, that they know my position. But I am also contacting every single person I know, trying to get more people to register to vote and getting them involved. You have to be registered to vote if you're going to make a difference.
And Mike, you are so right. We have to keep those phone calls going, because more than ever, we have to be heard. We have to keep and not just the Democrats. I know Mike is from Georgia, and he has 2 Democrat U.S. senators, but those of us in states with Republican senators, we have to keep the pressure on them as well, because we have to help President Trump deliver what has been promised. And that means keeping the pressure on some of our elected officials. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.